we have one of two options, right? Number one, we could outsource. We could get someone to do things for us. And number two, we could automate. Right? Meaning to say using softwares, using systems, putting things in place. And in your opinion, and I think this is going to be a biased one, but in your opinion, which is your preferred method and what is your take on outsource versus automate? Like what's that about?
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. It's a very smart question. And, that's the world we're living in, right? In 2020, a lot of things get automated, and I appreciate that. There's certain things that, are easy to automate, right? Like calendar scheduling is like, it's not perfect, but there's like kind of a software that for most people they like and they can find, or, sending invoices you can automate and things like that. But I'd say my question for you is, we all know that those technologies aren't fail safe, right? They always do. There's glitches and there's things that go wrong, even with the best software, even the ones you've had for years. Do you want to be the one who answers every troubleshooting email or every customer service question? Because just because you have the automation in place doesn't mean that your customers that you're working with know how to use it. So that means someone has to interface with all those questions. Someone has to have those real human experiences. We haven't been able to automate that very well yet. Like bots don't do a great job. They're not branded. They don't give a good customer experience. So, that there's potential, you're potentially losing revenue, right? If someone gets too frustrated with the automated processes in place. Like we all see, like, if you're in commerce, like you see the like empty baskets and things like that and stuff where you're like, what went wrong that these people walked away from? And, I think the automation can help. And I certainly think it would be foolish to say every business owner isn't going to look for some of this automation, but I do think that it's not foolproof and it will never replace what, you can have in terms of having a right hand, a person on your team that you can look to and be like, hey, can you help with this today? Or like, I really want this. And the one thing you'll never be able to replicate is having a team gives you so much energy. Like, I feel like you must know this too. Like having people around you who, like, when you're having a bad day or a good day, they can relate to you and say like, this is, we're doing great, or remember you wanted to do this, or like, I'm so excited we did this project. It can renew an entrepreneur with that energy that like you will never get from automation.
100%. It's the human connection, right? So like one biggest takeaway that I got from Michaela sharing really is the human connection. That's the one thing that no bots or no systems or no automation can replace. And that's what makes human unique, right? That is what makes the human connection, the human touch, the personalization that makes the whole experience a beautiful one. And of course, not just with the customers or with your clients, but also with you internally, that because we all know, right, as an entrepreneur, it's not an easy path. It's challenging. There's a lot of struggle. There's a lot of obstacles. I'm sure you can relate to that, isn't it? Yeah,
totally. And I think the one other big thing I worry about with with the automation is that so many people, when you get into entrepreneurship, right, you usually have a niche, or like you have an idea that you're like, this particular idea is good. If you automate something, that's the exact opposite of a unique pathway. Like automation means to make something uniform. You're like taking on that software that's going to be a uniform software. You're taking on that experience and then you're making it uniform. So I guess depending on how your brand is too, it's potentially detrimental because you could lose some of what you loved about your idea by automating too much. And then you're going to take away that kind of unique factor. Whereas with humans, like you're saying, the human connection, you can talk to them and explain it and get, the brand and the idea. And I totally appreciate what you're saying too about the idea that being an entrepreneur is lonely and it can be really challenging. And there is a particular loneliness to being a scaling entrepreneur. Like building out a team is hard as an entrepreneur because that's another reason I kind of made my business to be that sounding board, because often in corporate settings, like HR is a sounding board for leadership as they grow, because you want to portray that like strong, capable, just a really excited force to not only customers, but to your team. So when you're scaling, it's really important to have people you can turn to and be like, I don't know if I know what I'm doing here, and like, what should I do? It's really tough if you don't have that.
Yeah, 100%. Right. One thing you mentioned is that we have internal stakeholders, we have external stakeholders, right? The external stakeholders would be your clients, your customers, and all of that. The internal stakeholders are your team members. So, echoing what you just mentioned, Michaela, I think it's very important to know that you've got people in this with you together, and that's something that a lot of solopreneurs don't get. They're just like, oh man, today's a bad day, and they feel like, you know, it's the world against them. You know, they don't feel like, you know, oh, I have someone that I can confide in, or there's someone that, you know, I can kind of bounce ideas with. They don't have all of that. But when we eventually do have a team, that's where we get all of this support, this additional support, because we all know, like what you just mentioned, you know, there's a lot of struggles, there's a lot of obstacles, a lot of challenges in entrepreneurship, and that's a constant. So all of us need help, right? Whether it is from mentors, coaches, or even having a team.
If you have gained something from this video, give us a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and turn on your notifications so that you will never miss another video like this.